What can you do when you're the buyer competing against a bunch of other people? Hi everybody, Chris Egan, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services here. So the year of 2020, it's been a crazy year, and especially true for the residential real estate market. We've been in a low interest, low inventory environment for a long time, which has increased buyer demand. I have some ideas that might help your offer rise to the top of the stack. My first tip, and this may seem like an obvious one, but it's seldom ever done, is have your agent ask the seller what they're looking for. Oftentimes it may just be the highest purchase price, but there are oftentimes other things that the seller is motivated by. Maybe it's a specific closing date. Maybe there's some personal property. There's a lot of things that matter to sellers, so find out what it is that's motivating them. Now, the second thing is, as a buyer, it's more important than ever to have all your ducks in a row going into the purchase. So meaning you have your pre-approval letter, you have necessary funds to close. And what we're oftentimes seeing is that the buyer that's in the strongest financial position, meaning they've done all that preliminary stuff, they're oftentimes the ones that win. So make sure that you have your lender lined up, you've met all the conditions of the pre-approval, and you have the funds that they've already verified. Those are all important things that a seller is going to look at when they're comparing your offer to others. Now, along with having your financing lined up, another important piece of that is what type of financing you're doing. Of course, if you're paying cash, that is the most attractive to a seller because they don't have to deal with an appraisal and that they know that once they sign that contract, barring any other inspection contingencies, that house will close. The second most attractive to a seller is generally conventional financing. After that, then FHA and VA. So if the seller doesn't have any cash offers, generally a conventional offer with a strong down payment will be pretty attractive in most cases to a seller as well. So make sure that you understand what you've been pre-approved for because that will help to determine what kind of offer you can make to the seller. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing an FHA or a VA mortgage. In today's market, though, it is harder to get a seller to agree to those just because they do have that added layer of inspection component on the appraisal. All lenders will require an appraisal, whether it's conventional, FHA, or VA, but generally it's a little bit looser housing standards when it comes to a conventional mortgage. They won't check out the condition or look at the condition as closely as they will with an FHA or VA mortgage. So after you have your financing lined up, what else is important to the seller that you can put in the offer? Of course, the offer price, that's going to be probably number one. But after that, you can, of course, ask the seller to pay closing costs, home warranty, things like that. Those all decrease the net sales price to the seller, so makes your offer less attractive. Then there's the inspections. You can do a whole house home inspection. You can do a radon test, mold test, structural inspection. I never recommend to any of my buyers that they forego any inspections. But it's something that you need to consider because there are buyers that are doing that in today's market. Whether it's right or wrong, from a lot of sellers' perspective, that will make an offer rise to the top of the list because it's just one less thing they have to hassle with. Another thing that sellers will do in today's market is they will do a pre-inspection in the hopes that a buyer won't do an inspection and have it contingent upon the sale. The inspections are just another contingency in the contract that has to be fulfilled before the closing can happen. So it's just another layer in the contract that if one offer has an inspection and another offer doesn't, that one will tend to rise to the top of the stack a little easier than the house that's contingent upon an inspection. Another thing that a lot of buyers are doing that's popular this year, and I've had good luck with this with a lot of buyers, is that they'll make the offer still contingent upon the home inspection, and then they will agree in the purchase agreement that after the inspection contingency period, they will either choose option A or C, meaning they will take the house as it is, but they still reserve the right to walk away and retain their earnest deposit after the inspection. That way, with that option, the seller knows that they're not going to come back and ask for a bunch of repairs. Another thing you can adjust in the offer is the amount of earnest money that you put in the offer. Generally in our market in Omaha, it's around 1%, and your earnest money is simply your good faith money. It's your deposit in the transaction. So the more you put, the better. So you might put 3 or 4%. That will make your offer hopefully more attractive to the seller. Now these last couple are a little bit outside the box, but I have personally used them and had great success with them. Especially the first one is offering as the buyer to pay a portion of the seller's closing costs. Now, generally when we think of one party in the transaction paying closing costs, it's typically the seller to the buyer. But the market's been tight. So as a buyer, if you have those additional funds and you can offer to pay a portion of the seller's closing costs, that's something that will make you really stand out. Very seldom are buyers offering to pay seller's closing costs. And the reason that that's so attractive to the seller is that the seller can actually sell it to the buyer for a lower price and still net more money. So there's less risk of running into an appraisal problem when you're paying a portion of the seller's closing costs. Now, the last thing I've seen with quite a bit of success is including a personal letter with an offer. Generally, sellers will like to know who their house is going to. Now, that doesn't work in all cases, but just a little bit about yourself sometimes helps. There's some debate on those personal letters, whether or not those should be included, but if a buyer asks for that to be submitted along with their offer, we will always do that. And I've seen it really win some offers, so it doesn't ever hurt just to include a little bit about yourself and who you are. Thanks for checking out another video. I hope some of these tips might help you to get your offer accepted if you're competing against a bunch of other people in this crazy market. And of course, if you like the video, don't forget to like it and subscribe.